Om Swami Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. We're going to begin the discussion of Sutra number 3. On page 34, it says, Janma Sreshtatvam Mrityunjoyatvam. Janma Sreshtatvam means the ultimate goal of birth, or the ultimate aim of life. Mrityunjoyatvam is victory over death. The ultimate aim of life is victory over death. The purpose of life is to generate something that continues beyond our lives. That is, all life desires to produce something that is indestructible as a memorial, a testimony to our having been here, successfully manifested in this world of objects and relationships. Perhaps one of the greatest, the most prolific reasons for wanting to have children is to accomplish something that remains after we go, to produce something that is going to stay here and continue this legacy. Of course, there are physical children born in wombs, and there are spiritual children born in wisdom. Janma Shreshtatvam Mrityunjoyatvam shows that in order to accomplish victory over death, one must give birth to something that is not going to die with the death of the body, not subject to death. Most people try to fulfill this urge with the birth of physical children. In spiritual life, we seek to give birth in many ways. Give birth to an idea, give birth to wisdom, give birth to an institution of wisdom, give birth to a lineage of teachings. There are so many ways that we seek to accomplish victory over death, which is the highest aim of birth. When we look at the history of the truly noble souls who actually attained victory over death, we find examples of people who are remembered with the highest respect because of the ideas which they manifested during their lives. The greatest of them attained to the highest freedom. And therefore, each of us should strive for freedom. When we take birth, we have 3 debts of karma. The debt that we owe to the devas, to all the gods and goddesses, we discharge by making a contribution to all of life, making this world a better place because of our having been here. We owe a debt to our ancestors, which we discharge by taking care of the elderly with the same respect with which we will want to be cared for when we become old, and by nurturing the next generation in the way we want this world to become. We have a 3rd debt of karma to the gurus, the beings of wisdom and light, the inspirations in our lives, which we discharge by living in accordance with the wisdom that they teach. And when we actually perform our karmas with efficiency, we become free from debt. We, in effect, attain the highest aim of birth, which is victory over death. We manifest an ideal in our lives. We conform our behavior to the ideal of perfection. So we are not just saying the words, but we are feeling what they mean. The ultimate purpose of life is victory over death. When we start defining our lives according to the different bhavas of our interactions, the different intensities of attitudes in our interactions, we in fact develop a communion between our head and our heart. In that communion is the realization which is an end to duality, which is the Sreshtatvam of Janma. The ultimate of birth, Mrityunjoyatvam, victory over death. Within that realization, we experience that there is no yesterday and there is no tomorrow. There is no past and there is no future. The present becomes filled with now. And actually, look at the reality of our lives. The past is a present recollection. The future is a present projection. The reality is the present, past and future. So the first principle is that every birth occurs as a consequence of something that was commenced in the past and is now coming to fruition. The second principle is that all individuals are bound by desire. And the third principle shows that the ultimate goal of existence is to attain victory over death, in which everything is full, complete, and perfect. The victory over death is to make a contribution to this world, to make it a better place because of our having been here, to pay respect to the elderly for giving us the capacity to attain this realization, and to nurture the young so that they have the same or similar capacities, and the opportunity to continue living in this tradition. The third principle is to live in accordance with the wisdom of the gurus, the wisdom of the wise. And if we can do that, we put our head and our heart in communion. We stop worrying about yesterday and projecting about tomorrow, and we live in a state of now, where there is no part of the karma. All that is coming in the future has already arrived. Janma sreshtatam mrityum charita. The fourth sutra says, Kam aradhanena vidya avidya phalitam. Kam means desire. Aradhanena is defined as, it's in the instrumental case, ena, by means of the attempt to satisfy or satiate. Aradhana, to make pleased, to make happy, to make glad, to satisfy this desire. Vidya, avidya, means knowledge and its opposite, ignorance. Vidya, avidya. Phalitam means the fruit. The fruit of the attempt to satisfy desire is either knowledge or ignorance. Whenever we attempt to satisfy a desire, we produce action. All action yields either the fruit of ignorance, strengthening of the ego, the identification of individuality, or strengthening of unity, surrender of the ego. Two possibilities. I do it for me, or I do it for thee. Two possibilities. Either we have knowledge, which is communion, or ignorance, which is division. There is a centrifugal force and a centripetal force. The centripetal force is moving us towards cohesion, unity, light, wisdom, peace, the cessation of separation. The centrifugal force can be called the asuras, the forces of individuality, the forces which say, I've got to be me. The force that separates, distinguishes, categorizes, makes the individual separate from others is the force of duality. And knowledge brings us a greater degree of completion and perfection, while ignorance yields greater incompleteness. Now we have a measuring stick. We have a criterion. By looking at the proposed results of satisfying any desire, will that give us a greater feeling of completeness? Or will that give us a greater feeling of separateness? Separation will create greater ignorance or karma for us to wade through in our path to perfection. Completeness brings us closer to our goal, if we know what the goal is. So Kashyap's fourth principle says that from the attempt to satisfy desire comes either the fruit of wisdom, unity, or ignorance, duality. Before we attempt to satisfy our desire, let us look at the probable outcome of an action. Will it create for us a greater harmony? Or will it get us into more trouble than we are already in? Because we realize that the fruit of any action is going to yield either ignorance or knowledge, we now have a criterion for discrimination by which we can ask, what do we want? Can we follow our actions through to their logical conclusions before we commit them? Insofar as we are blessed with that degree of discrimination, to that extent we produce the fruit of knowledge. To the extent that we respond emotionally and take whatever fruit God wants to give us, we relinquish control of our actions. When we lose control, we get any fruit that is appropriate, rather than the one that is desired. It is a statement of fact, but it is also an admonition that says we are making things very clear for your capacity of discrimination. Follow events through their logical sequences to their ultimate conclusion, and what will you get? Will this action produce pleasure? Or will the pleasure be so transient and the pain so great that the reward hardly justifies the price? It gives us a very clear measuring stick. If we want knowledge, then we will look at our process very clearly and analyze step by step what we propose to get. It comes down to the same question. What is the goal? Define the necessity for this action. Don't just try to rationalize it. Define it. Look deeply at the consequences, the probable outcomes of the actions we produce. This is an admonition to develop our capacities of discrimination and to use them so that we can foresee what the probable outcomes of our actions will be. Are we working for the greater harmony of the world? Or are our desires selfishly moving us away from unity? These are very clear indicators of whether we are producing actions in accordance with knowledge or with ignorance. These are subjects for discussion. A sutra is an outline of topics for discussion. We can see very clearly in our own lives that when we produce an action attempting to satisfy any desire, we come into a greater harmony or a lesser harmony, depending upon the clarity of our planning and the efficiency of our plan. When we follow through with things to their final outcomes, we can see if they really can provide the results that we want. If the answer is no, then we had better put on the brakes and discriminate. Every time we have a tendency to offer an emotional response to circumstances, if we could put a little gap of remembrance between our emotion and our response, that remembrance, hopefully, with the blessing of the Divine Mother, will give us sufficient discrimination to ask, what will be the logical outcome of my actions? Am I willing to accept it? Is this really what I want? We will get good and bad things from every action. Which do I want? Every action that we produce in life has two possibilities. It will be for me or for thee. Either I am acting motivated by selfishness or I am acting motivated by surrender. There are some really fine shades of gray where we think we are surrendering, but actually enhancing our egotism. Tantra is a synthesis of the ways to move from duality to unity. Tantra admits that I exist, I act, and I react. How do I invite grace to come to me? Kripa means grace. It means what you do is what you get. Kri means do. Pa means get. The real grace is that I will receive the fruit of my karma. How do I invite grace to find me in this duality? One way is to pray for the blessing of divine remembrance. The best way to pray is with mantra, literally that which takes away the mind. Now, when you have a stimulus and when you are ready to respond, use a mantra and take away your mind. Take a breath and put a mantra with your breath. Hold it for a moment and then say the mantra again. Get yourself clear on your objectives, your motivations, and your methods. What response will give you the closest approximation of where you want to go? If you burst out emotionally, you may cause greater damage than you already have. You may create a bigger problem than you already have. There are many techniques to get more control over yourself. If you can identify the emotion, you can repeat the Bij mantra that corresponds to the emotion. In this way, you will get control of the emotion. Then you can recite the mantra of the attitude that you want to replace the emotion with. The following are some of the more common attitudes that we might want to control, followed by positive feelings with which we can replace them. There are various methods that can be employed. Some teachers teach that one should perform one mala of the mantra of the negative emotion, followed by a second mala of the mantra of the positive emotion. Other teachers instruct the combination of the mantra of the negative quality, followed immediately by the mantra of the positive quality, as in the recitation Brahm Sam, watching confusion transform into peace for the duration of at least one mala. These bijas are cultivated from the Bija Nigantu, which is a dictionary of bijas, and you'll find many of them very helpful in controlling various attitudes that come up in our lives. The attitude of confusion, Brahm, and using the first method, it would be Brahm, 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 Brahm. Or the second method, if we want to replace it with peace, Sam, Brahm, Sham, Brahm, Sham, Brahm, Sham, Brahm, Sham. Anger, calm. Blindness, and lust, calm. Darkness, death, ring. Pain, gu. Greed, lu. Sorrow, lu. Untruth, also. Laziness, tam. Hatred, green. Ignorance, mo. Haughtiness, udra. Restlessness, chum. Rigidity, trim. Ego, aham. Frustration, tamas, tam. Hunger, kshum. Scattered, all over the place. Tam. Injury, him. Doubt, nitchik. Temper, udra. sadness, dukkha, sickness, roga, memory, vam, my will, aham, temptation, duradhara, foul mouth, durmu, attachment, ta, grossness, stool, anxiety, tam, vacillating, asanama, meanness, mund, hypocrisy, being. And here's a list of positive qualities, these bead mantras that you can recite after you get hold of yourself, after you get control of the negativities, by reciting the mantra, the bija of that negativity which is possessing us. We can replace it with peace, sham, dharma, dham, forgiveness, sham, abundance, pum, light, yum, immortality, pleasure, sum, generosity, dum, comfort, sum, hope, energy, sham, love, prem, wisdom, yan, tranquility, sam, purity, pat, focused, chip, humility, lam or kri, lam or kri, surrender, tat, devotion, bham, fullness, pum, patience, sham, pardon, sham, faith, sham, strength, bal, joy, health, shwash, nourishment, pum, thy will, tyag, harmony, male, respect, shrim, freedom, mum, subtlety, ram, caring, dam, stability or stableness, dring, tenderness, dam, compassion, dam, and truth, sat. Another important technique for attaining self-control is to recite the bij mantra of the chakra from which a negative vibration emanates. So you know, in the Bahya-matrika Nyas, you have the 16 vowels in the Vishuddha, and then you have the 10 consonants, and then the 8 consonants, and the 6 consonants, and the 4 consonants in the Anahata, Manipur, Swadhisthana, and Muladhara, and then the 2 final consonants, Hang Sham, in the Sahasrara, in the Agnya Chakra. So you could find the bij mantra of the emotion that you're feeling, locate it on the petal in the chakra from which it emanates, and then make japa of the bija of that chakra. You'll find a list of all the alphabets and their placement in the chakras in the cosmic puja. It's under the Bahya-matrika Nyas. So then you make japa of the bij mantra from the chakra, the bija of the chakra from which the negative vibration emanates, and the japa of that bija will help to control the emotion, and you will want to produce a vibration that is stronger than the vibration that is confronting you. That is the objective. So say that Bob comes from the bij mantra that comes from the Muladhara, then you'll say Lam, 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 Lam. Because Lam is the bij mantra of Muladhara. That's Indra's bij, and Indra is the rule of the pure, and he controls the mind, and he can bring your mind away from the negative energies and bring it into the positive energies and illuminate that positivity. So now, if you find that you're moving into a space where you're losing control, you ask the gods to take control from you. To let the gods take the control. Don't let the Asuras have their way. They'll take your mind and run with it. Who knows where you'll end up? That is the objective. Well, here are some techniques. The Bij mantra of the emotions, negative and positive, by which we can replace the Bij mantra of the chakras from which these energies emanate. These will get you back in focus and control almost instantaneously. All you need, you've got the technique, you've got the knowledge, you've got the system. All you need to do is remember it at the time when you need it the most. If we can remember, we will resolve the whole host of problems. Every individual is in constant negotiation with every other individual. Samsara means the world, the sea of all, the world of objects and relations. Sam means all. Sara is the ocean. This ocean of all. We're all in it together, guys. Every object has a relationship to every other object, and that puts us in a constant state of negotiation, seeing where we can add value to each other's lives, which brings us the fruit of knowledge, a greater cohesion, the fulfillment of unity. It is our own attachment which makes for cloudy judgment. It is just our ignorant attachments which make for a lack of discrimination. The ego is very subtle and will try to trick us. But by constant vigilance we can gain control, self-mastery, a greater degree of efficiency. And then we will attempt to satisfy only those desires which will produce the fruit of knowledge, not the fruit of ignorance. So our fourth sutra is Kam Aradhanena Vidya Avidya Phalita. The pursuit of the satiation of desires, the attempt to satisfy any desire, is going to yield ignorance or wisdom. Are there any questions? Yes, please, Gauri.
Swamiji, you spoke about times when we think we are surrendering, but we're actually strengthening the ego.
Yes.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Aren't I the most humble devotee? I just won the grace race. Surely, of all the devotees, I must be the most humble. I'm the best sadhu on the block. Do you need another illustration? Didn't I perform that selfless service perfectly? Certainly, there can't be any devotee more committed than me, because look at the efficiency with which I perform all of my selfless service as a privilege to demonstrate my love. Do you want to give me my prize now? Are there other questions? Please.
Swamiji, I have a question about fruits of our action.
Yes.
In the Bhagavad Gita, it says that when we get the fruits of our actions, we should offer it to God. How do we do that, Swamiji?
By sharing the fruit. If you're doing this action to attain some fruit, then are you the sole recipient of the fruit? You go to work, you earn a paycheck. Is that money just for you? Or don't you share it with your family? Or don't you share it with God's family? Or don't you share it even wider and make sure that you can change this world because of your commitment? So in many ways, the first thing we want to do is take the fruit and put it on the altar. Because this symbolizes, hey, I work for you. I know whose fruit this is. And it's your duty to cut up the fruit and distribute it. It's not my duty. My duty is to work and bring home the fruit and bring it to you. In the Kilika style, there's a special puja that we perform in the recitation of the Chandi. It comes from the verse that says that Dadati pratigrinati nanati prashidati itaham rupina kilena mahadivaina kilitam. And it means that as you give, so do you receive. And in our ashram in Rishikesh, I was performing this puja. So, of course, you got to give everything. And I took all of my traveler's checks, my passport, all my pocket change, and I put it on the altar. And sat down, started doing the puja. It didn't feel right. So I took off my clothes, and I sat there naked, and I put the cloth on the altar, and it still didn't feel right. And then I went and I saw that there was a certificate of ownership for some things that I had, and I put that on the altar and sat down again. It didn't feel right. Then I got up, and I looked pretty silly walking around my room, stark naked, trying to figure out what more I could give. And somehow my attention was called to a diary that I used to make notes in while I traveled. And I pulled the book from my shelf and opened it up, and there was a 5 rupee note. And then I put that on the altar, and it felt just fine. The point of the puja is to give everything to God, and whatever she gives you at the end of the puja, that's what you're going to accept as prasad. And that's the objective of the puja, is to commit everything you have. To everything. Lajagrina boy tin takitanai. Without shame, without modesty, without hatred, without aversion, without fear, just give her everything. And she may say, okay, I decided not to give any of this back to you. I want to tell you, I used to go off into far-off places, and one of the places I ended up was in northern Bihar. There's an area called Darbhanga. Darbhanga is near to Samastipur, and if you look on a map, you'll probably find neither of them. But there's a district of Samastipur, Darbhanga, and I went to take my bath in a lake. No one around. I put my things in a pile and took one gamcha, put it around my waist, and put all my cloth and my valuables, everything I had with me that was valuable, and I put it in a pile just next to the shore. I went into the water, maybe 3 steps in, and it was deep enough to duck under the water, and I ducked under once, I ducked under twice, I ducked under 3 times, and I came up and looked around, and there was nothing there. Nothing there. So and there wasn't a soul on the bank of the lake. I was just amazed. She took it. And she didn't give it back to me. So I was wearing a cloth, and just one cloth, and I had a wet loincloth in my hand, and I went to the Shiva temple, and on the way to the temple, some young men came to me and said, it's winter time, why are you soaking wet, wearing one gamcha, one towel around your waist? We're looking looking for a donation for a festival that we're about to have. And I said, all I have is this wet wine glove. And I put that in their basket. And they looked at me quite surprised, and I gave them my loincloth and went to sit at Shiva's temple. So there are times where she will say, well, thank you very much for the offering, and see you later, guys. No prasad here. There are other times where we just give her our devotion, and she gives us abundance. Because after that situation, I sat in the temple I sat next to the Shiva Lingam for some time and chanting and singing, and the pujari came and said, it seems to be very cold, don't you have any cloth? And I said, no, everything I had was just stolen. And in a few minutes, half the village came, and they brought me new clothes and a new chadar, a shawl, and they brought me to the restaurant, and they fed me sumptuously, and I was the guest of the village for about a week. And I never ate like that. When I had a little money, I couldn't afford to eat like that. So I was a very privileged guest. So sometimes she takes it all away, sometimes she gives it all back. You just never know with this mother. Are there other questions?
Swamiji, question from Sadhuma from North Carolina.
Namaste, Sadhuma.
Namaste, Swamiji. Could you explain the meaning of Sharanagati and how it may relate to our subject of discussion in this class? Thank you.
Sharanagati generally refers to one who takes refuge with another. So very much Sharanagati is someone who is oppressed by the circumstances of life, and they go to another to take refuge. And certainly we pronounce the mantra in the Chandi, Sharanagata Dinartha Poritrana Parayane. For those who take refuge in you, Mother, you save from all difficulties. All worry you take away, O Mother of the Universe. Exposer of consciousness, we bow to you. Sharanagati means here that we are taking refuge with the divine. There are others who go to an ashram. An ashram is a place of ashray, and that is the same as Sharanagati. It means that you take refuge in the ashram. If you take refuge with God, you have no farther to look. Sometimes you take refuge in the ashram and you find there's more work to do than you thought in the first place. Yes, please.
Swamiji, when you talk, it seems so obvious and so simple what the right thing to do is, but sometimes it just takes one step off the asana and the right thing or the doesn't happen, or the right reaction doesn't happen. How do I keep that inspiration going when sometimes it just seems to
sometimes it seems to dissolve instantaneously, but if we remember our goal, if we remember our path, if we remember what our objectives are, why we're doing this, why we're defining a lifestyle in this way, if we can remember that, then we'll be with it. And the more we remember it, every time those crazy thoughts come, they become more of an exception than the rule. The rule is, hey, I've got a plan for life. I've got a goal for life. I want to be with her. I want to be with these people, these gods and these goddesses and these gurus and these... This is a cool scene. I want to be here. And now what do I have to do to be here? How do I make it happen? It's academic. Once you know what you want it to look like, it's academic. Don't be lazy. And once you know the way, it's easy to make the journey. The only thing that holds you back is your own lethargy. Are there other questions?
Swamiji, a question from Kumari from Vallejo.
Namaste, Kumari Ma.
Since every desire, good or bad, must be of the future, which can only exist as a thought, can it be said that surrender is a relinquishment of all thoughts of future or past and becoming established in the present reality?
Oh, very beautifully said. Very, very well put. Yes, absolutely. Surrender means samarpan. Samarpan. I offer myself in equilibrium. That's the surrender. And if we surrender, then we have surrendered ourselves in equilibrium. There's no waves. There's no up and down. There's no peaks and there's no valleys. There's just samyavashta. Samanya avashta, in the situation situated in perfect equilibrium. Samarpana, I offer myself in perfect equilibrium. Surrender. Samyavasta, situated in perfect equilibrium. Interesting, in Sanskrit there are so many terms for this. In English we have to write paragraphs. Yes, please.
Question from Usha from Canada.
Namaste, Ushama.
This is in reference to what you taught us about tapasya and suffering. If we resist a negative desire that may arise, a particular suffering or burning can occur in the mind and or the body. Would this process be called a form of tapasya?
That resistance would be a form of tapasya, absolutely, Ushama, because as soon as we resist, we're abstaining from it, we're controlling ourselves, we are producing friction, we're colliding with the desire. And in that collision course, there's friction, there's heat, there's tapasya, and it's meditated, it is premeditated. That we define our lives by this tapasya, that we abstain from the negative that's going to get us into trouble. And then we've got more tapasya to do to get out of trouble. So the greatest tapasya is to be vigilant and to maintain a strong guardianship over the input into our minds. Will I pursue that desire even though I know it's going to get me into trouble? Maybe not. If she blesses us.
Swamiji, question from Wendy from New Jersey.
Namaste, Wendy Ma. Namaste, Sam.
Namaste, Sriman Swamiji. In Sutra 3, it says that the most prolific reason for wanting to have children is to accomplish something that remains after we go, something that's going to stay here and continue this legacy. Can you please help me to understand how we can accomplish this without a sense of attachment? Thank you.
Oh, we can't. Wendy, it's not possible to be free from attachment all the time. Whenever there's a hum, whenever there is an I, there is a mind. And if there's a mind, there is attachment. Now, can we purify this attachment and make it the most beautiful, beautiful experience that's possible? Yes. Because it's not my child. I am the caretaker for God. This child is lent to me to see how I can nurture that child so he can be the greatest tool in God's tool chest. So he can be the greatest expression of God's love. And I've got the privilege of being the mentor, the teacher, the guru to that child. So it's God's kid. Sam, you belong to God. And so do we all. We're all God's children. And now our parents are chokidars, they're caretakers, they're guardians trying to cultivate. They're malis, they're cultivators, gardeners that try to cultivate our flowering plants so that we grow up strong and healthy and blossom. And that's how we free ourselves from the attachment. But attachment we will. I'm a gardener. I love my garden. I don't want the frost frost to come. I don't want the bugs to come. I don't want the different problems to come and ruin my garden. I will do the best I can to protect my garden. And that's what we're doing here in the Devi Mandir. We're cultivating yogis. We're gardeners. We're in the same business, Wendy.
A question from Jayadeva from New Jersey.
Namaste, Jayadev.
Beloved Swamiji and Ma, do you recommend that we learn these Bij mantras as listed so we are ready to use them? And how would we know which chakra would be where the source of the challenge is located? Thank you so much for your loving us like this.
Namaste, Jayadev. Absolutely, I recommend you learning both the negative ones and the positive ones. Now, the way that you learn which chakra they emanate from is to look in the cosmic puja. There's called the Bahya Matrika Nyas. And there is a diagram of the placement of the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. I'm sorry, it's in Sanskrit. But I'm sure you can read it. And if you have difficulty, let us know, and we will create a diagram in English with the letters on the petals of the chakras, and then it'll show you where that emotion is located, from whence it cometh. And then you can recite the Bij mantra of that chakra. You'll find it in the Cosmic Puja. I don't remember the page number. I'm sorry.
Swamiji, question from Nilima Agarwal from New Delhi.
Namaste, Nilima.
Namaste Swamiji and Ma. It says that there is no yesterday and tomorrow, but only now. But don't our karmas always remind us of the past and work towards the future?
Yes, they do, Nilima. We're never in the present. That's the struggle. If we were in the present right now, we would be in meditation. With everything we're doing, we would be totally focused, totally present, totally absorbed into the activity which we are performing. The difficulty is that we are rarely in the present. We are almost always cogitating the past and projecting towards the future.
Swamiji, a question from Nanda from San Jose.
Namaste, Nandama.
Namaste, Ma and Swamiji. Can you please tell us which method you would advocate for the repetition of the mantra, one mala of negative followed by positive, or one mala with both negative and positive bija?
Nandama, I recommend that you try them both and then see which one feels best to you. It may be best to you that you grab hold of the negative with one mala and then replace it with the positive with another mala. It may be best to you that you watch the negative dissolve into the positive just as you're sitting there. I can't tell you for each individual which will feel the best for you. I'm giving you the tools. You can experiment with them and get hold of your emotion and plan your life. Get an idea what do you want? What's the response you want? One woman wrote me the other day, how do I dissolve the violent tendencies of my spouse? He gets violent. I said, well, why do you have to argue with him at the time when he's getting out of control? Stop! Don't pour gasoline on the fire, please. It will ignite. If you pour gasoline on the fire, there will be explosion. The conflagration will grow. Withdraw. And think about what your goal is together, what your objective is together, and how you're going to manifest that ultimate objective. It's not about tactics. How do we do it? It's about what the goal is. And do we have a greater good that we're striving to manifest? In this way, Nandama, please experiment and see what works for you. How do you get to take one step backwards and say, I don't have to respond immediately, I can think about what I want to say?
Some question from Rick B. From Florida.
Yes, Rick, namaste.
I have read that from the highest consciousness, one realizes that there is no free will, and that God was always the doer and all was God's grace, that we were never the doer, but that we have to act as though there is free will. Can you please comment?
Yes, Rick, my mom is the goddess Parvati, and she is the goddess of karma. Everything is predetermined. She's doing it all. I don't have anything to do. It's her nature that works through me. My father is Lord Shiva, Rick. He's the Lord of Shiva Sankalpamastu. He's the Lord of free will. He says, Mom's going to give you the karma, but I'm going to give you the freedom to respond to it the way you want to. Now you choose. Sometimes I am the child of mother and sometimes I'm the child of father, but all the time I'm the child of both. Sometimes one is predominant. She says, my nature says that you're going to respond this way. I'm giving you this set of circumstances. And then you pray to Shiva and he says, yeah, but you could change it if you want. You can change it just by responding with purity, with clarity, with divinity. So, Rick, both are true. Predetermination is the aspect of the mother, and free will is the aspect of Lord Shiva. And we're the children of both.
Swamiji, Wendy has another question.
Certainly.
Sometimes I find that when I give and give, at the end of the day, I'm really tired.
Well deserved. You deserve to be tired.
She's asking, what am I doing wrong, Swamiji?
You're not doing anything wrong. Take some rest. You deserve to rest. It's not wrong to get tired. But you know what? If you take little periods of rest throughout the day, you'll find that you get less tired in the evening. And the way you do that is just close off at your desk or at your chair or at your kitchen and just sit there for a mala.
Or giving a job.
And turn on the joy. And give and give and give. And she gives and she gives and she gives. And that's what mothers do. And thank you for being a mother.
Question from Usha, Swamiji. Anandmayi Ma used to refer to Khayal in respect to her actions. What does that mean?
Khayal?
Yeah, Kheyala.
Kheyala.
Yala.
I'm sorry. Ushama, could you please send me that in Sanskrit? Or in Bangla?
She definitely
Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste.